Hi, everyone. It's Ashlyn from the Holistic Chamber of Commerce here. Today, we are talking with Gwynneth Doyle, who is a member of the Holistic Chamber of Commerce, and she is also an independent consultant for Power, which is a public benefit corporation that has a holistic approach to energy consumption. And today, Gwynneth is going to be telling us about how solar power can benefit you. So she has been a proponent of the environment for over 20 years, and it has led her to discover solar power and how it can really change our lives. So she's going to talk to us about that today. So hello, Gwynneth. How are you doing?
I'm great, Ashlyn. Thanks for having me today.
Thank you for being here. So, do you want to just tell the people a little bit about yourself and, how you found yourself working in solar power and how you think that it can, um, help the environment and help people?
Absolutely. I was an environmental planner for over 20 years. I worked in public infrastructure such as highway interchanges, trains, electric utility lines, and I loved the work, but I was looking for a career change. I burnt out a little bit on it after 20 years in it. So I went into business for myself in a business arena, and I have a membership with HCC on that. But I also picked up solar because of my passion for the environment and its flexibility and allowing me a great work-life balance. Um, Solar is fabulous because many of you might be aware that your energy prices, your utility bill rise every year. Nation 4%. If you're in the Southern California Edison market, that's at 6.7%. And solar can help you hedge your bets against inflation, but also probably lower your bill when we take a look at the numbers inside. So that's the financial benefit. But the environmental benefit to solar is that you're using cleaner sources of energy that are renewable, and you're not causing fossil fuels to burn, which means you're making better air quality for yourself and everyone else, which means less opportunities to get asthma and other pollutants into your system. And so your health and everybody else's health is going to improve, not to mention greenhouse gas emissions and longevity of the ecosystem for the planet as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, it sounds, like something that can really help our lives, but also help the life of the planet and all the creatures living on it. So that is just great. And so you said, so you've been a proponent of the environment for a long time. Is that just something that you've always felt a connection to the environment and wanted to help it in that way?
Well, I wasn't raised in it, but when I went to college, I initially thought I would study international relations or politics. And when I went to look at the list of majors, I found urban studies and planning, and I liked it because it was an interdisciplinary field of politics and sociology and geography and science and economics. And I didn't be an expert in anything, which was great for me. And then I found that I could learn about the environment. And then once I got involved with the program, I learned all about the climate and impacts in the environment. And I just happened to get a job in environmental planning when I graduated, and that set me off on my career. And the way that I was a proponent was it was interpreting environmental regulations and working with engineers and architects to build these public infrastructure projects in a way that was more environmentally friendly. And I was kind of an internal activist with the team in trying to help them work with the law, see how much I could push the envelope, but also holding the project and the government accountable to what we promised the public, and also helping the public to understand what we were doing, drilling technical information into a more manageable level. And so I've also done nonprofit environmental activism as well interspersed throughout there. So I guess I take a middle road approach that I'm trying to work within the system to bring about change in the environment, because making the environment a better place is about checks and balances. It can't be a one solution approach. We've got to have many approaches, and we've got to have many parties at the table. We can't just be activists. We have to embrace everyone if we're going to really impact climate change. And solar is a great way to do that. When you go solar, you're creating independence from the utility company. You're taking more charge of your life. You're helping the environment. You're improving your bottom line and helping people at the same time. It's a win on so many levels. I don't know about everyone's utility situation, but I know in California, if there's a wildfire, the power gets shut off. If you get solar and a battery, you can have power while that situation happens. I know we had some issues in other countries with the grid going down. If the government's not reinvesting in infrastructure fast enough, and you have blackouts and brownouts in your area and you need power, what are you going to do? Solar's one option, or solar with a battery is an option if you can afford it and if that combination works for you.
Right, absolutely. So, going along off of that, who do you think, should be thinking about solar, in terms of people who could potentially, invest in this and use this? Like, who do you think are the good candidates for this? Who should be thinking about it? Is it everyone? Is it, homeowners? Who, if they're not thinking about solar, should be thinking about solar?
So there are several different programs. It's very specific to the locale that you're working and that you're living in. So if you're a homeowner or you own a building, solar can be really beneficial to you financially, and there's federal tax credits that go along with that. There might be local and state incentives that also go along with that. You have to check your locale. But I've also seen some municipalities in California doing this, and maybe other states are doing it as well, where they're giving you as a renter or anybody that has a utility bill the option to buy your energy from more renewable resources. But you really need to read the fine print, because the power companies have a certain utility mix, so much from renewables, so much from fossil fuels, and they're supplying energy from everyone. And at least in the program in California, a lot of that's an additional tax so that they can go out and invest in green resources, or they have green resource projects that they can divide out to you. But some people are okay putting a little bit of extra money into that because they want to do their part to help the environment, but they might not own a home. So it may not, for a renter, it may not be the same financial benefit to go green, but it might make you feel good about going green. But yes, the solar that I work with is really helpful to the building owner for commercial, or to the homeowner for residential.
Got it. Got it. So I'm sure a question you get asked all the time, and that I'm sure people want to know, is how much is it going to cost me? So, and I'm sure it's probably a little more complicated than that, but could you talk a little bit about the upfront costs and ongoing costs associated with solar?
Sure. So there's different ways to finance your solar system. And I have a free guide if anyone wants it, that talks about solar and how solar financing works. Some of the specific energy or specific information about your costs after is going to be different according to the locale that you're in. But there's a few things that enter into the equation when you're thinking about solar and how much does it cost us. One is, how old is your home? Do you have insulation in the attic or with double pane windows? That's going to affect your utility bill. Or is your HVAC system running optimally? Is your pool pump running optimally? So some people might find it beneficial to make those improvements so their utility bill goes down, their consumption goes down, and then you buy less solar, which is not a bad route to go. There's also how many people do you have in your family? Do you plan to add a jacuzzi or a sauna or an electric vehicle? You need to factor in those costs. So when solar people ask you for your bill to look at, they're not trying it. I mean, it depends on who you're talking to, but it's not about how much can I charge you for solar. It's about how much consumption do you use. So I give you the right size system for your needs so that you cover your needs at 100% of usage. Meaning that, I mean, you always buy in sell energy to the grid, but your overall net usage will be from your system when you account for it in a calendar year. But if you think in terms of pricing and process, at least in California for sure, and I can work with people that are experts in other areas because I have a large network of solar people to work with, and then I bring my integrity to the process. But in California, it's a lot like a car process. So you're looking probably around 20 up to maybe 50,000, just depending on everything, square footage of your house and all those other factors that I talked about. But it's a big range, and we can't know till we look at your project, at your situation specifically.
Right. Yeah. So it sounds like it's a very customized project that you would embark on and that you want to, work with someone who knows the ins and outs about this, like someone like you, and the people that you know through your network. So,
and also, I mentioned my other career up front. I forgot to tie it in. It's important because I managed projects that were from $5,000 to $500,000. So that means they were from really tiny to really complex. So to me, solar is like a smaller project. I bring those skills to help keep you, the homeowner, informed and work on your behalf with power and behind the scenes to ensure things are kind of going smoothly for you. I don't just buy and run, or I don't just sell and run. I stay with it through the entire process.
Awesome. That's great. And so speaking of the process, I'm just curious, as someone who knows very little, how long does, from someone deciding, okay, I want to get solar power for my house, to then like their house is running on solar power? Like, how long does that process typically take?
Well, once you sign the contract, someone has to visit your house and make sure that the satellite photography we looked at is accurate. And then they have to drop the plans. Then they have to submit a permit to the city and to the utility. Those organizations then have to accept it. Then they're given permission to install. And then once they install, they have to give them a permission to operate. And that process was going to change depending on the market. In California, 90 days was a good average from start to finish. But right now we've had some massive rule changes, and those organizations are inundated. So it could take longer than normal because everyone's trying to get solar now before the new rule changes, because the rule changes mean it's going to be more expensive and maybe not cost effective for people to go on. So that is a market by market to really know how long it's going to take for you.
Gotcha. So if someone, if someone is interested, what do you think their first step should be, in terms of getting started?
The first step would be to reach out to me. The first meeting is usually, let's just talk. What are your questions about solar? What do you know about solar? And let me help educate you on how it works. And I also send you a free information guide that's about 40 pages long about what solar is. So you don't have to take detailed notes. You have this guide to go back. But I'll have touched on it, and then you can use it to reinforce what you know. And then depending on how you feel from there, and when you're ready, there might be, you would get me the bill, or I might come to your house and take pictures. I can do this virtually too. You send me all the information. I have all the tools to run this virtually, and that's easy. And the second would be talking about what the proposal is. So see, I usually have about 3 meetings, and I don't believe in being pushy or salesy. I believe in logic. So I treat you how I would want to be treated if I were in your shoes, and respect that going solar is a complex decision, and it's affecting your house, which is most people's biggest investment. So it's something that needs to be handled with care.
Absolutely, absolutely. And speaking of that, do you, in terms of the long-term investment, can you talk a little bit about like how over time, um, you know, solar can have benefits even, after, the initial just, oh, you see your bill go down. Um, is there anything else in the long term that you think is a really good benefit?
Um, so solar systems last for, if you get the good quality monochrome panels and the appropriate components, which is all we deal with, it's called tier 1.
Mhm.
They last 25 years.
Oh, wow.
And Power has a 30-year warranty on roof penetration and all the equipment that follows it. So that's the best in the business. If you're thinking that you have a 30-year investment, they do degrade a little bit over time, and we have all the disclosures, but they're guaranteed to produce that amount for 30 years. What you're doing if you purchase a solar system, and I'm a big proponent of purchasing, not getting a lease, not getting a power purchase agreement. Those are not usually the best financial deals, telling you up front. Then you're looking at locking in your energy bill, because you can get a loan or you can pay cash. And if you get a loan, you're not putting any money down. You're knowing what your monthly payment is going to be. And it's almost like exchanging your utility bill out, but the difference is you're going to own your system and hopefully save monthly money. So your savings is 20, 30, 50, $100 a month, whatever your situation is, plus the inflation. You don't have to worry about when the utility raises their prices. You're going to be like, no big deal. I've got the solar system. My energy use are covered there. I'm not worried about the price increases. So people, if you look at it from a long-term perspective and you're owning your system, you can save, anywhere from 25 to 45 to 50, 80,000, just depending on what your situation is. So you got to think of it as like, why do people choose to rent a home versus owning a home? It's the same argument. You can own your solar system, or you can own your energy production.
Right. Right. Well, that sounds, really like it can make a big difference for people over the long run. And so I wanted to touch on something I think you had mentioned a little bit earlier, and just to clarify it. So your territory where you work in is in California. Can you touch on that a little bit more, like where specifically you work, but then also, your network
Mm-hmm.
and your ability to refer people to other trusted professionals?
Yeah, I'm a lifelong California resident, and my
Mhm.
crew's been here. California, in terms of solar and climate and utility rules, is uniform. So I live in Oxnard, Ventura, which is just 60 miles north of LA, but I can serve all of California no problem. I really understand how it works out here and how to help your system out. When it gets beyond California, then power isn't operational in, I think, at least 10 states. Then I would team up with a power professional that's an expert in that market, and I would work with them. So they would bring in the local knowledge of how the utilities work in that area and what that's going to mean to your line. But I would bring in the understanding of solar, the federal tax credit, which is 30%. And then I would just be there to also to ensure integrity in the process. Because Power does a pretty good job of being transparent and integrous, but as we know, that's all also up to the individual.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. So is there
Mhm.
anything else that you wanted to chat about or mention before, before we let people know that how they can get in touch with you? But is there anything else about solar that you wanted to mention that we haven't touched on yet?
Well, if you're in California, there are massive rule changes that are occurring on April 15th. If you're thinking about solar, it will be cheaper to go now. So see me for details because it's going to be more expensive after April 15th, but we need a couple of months before then to make sure we help you meet that deadline. And it might become like after April 15th, it's only more cost effective in your extremely hot area and like to run your AC all the time, like the deserts and inland empires, and then not so much the beach areas. So that is something to keep in mind. There's a ticking clock on that. But otherwise, I'm here to answer questions. You don't have to buy. I'm just happy to educate. The more people that go solar, the better for all of us. And I'll be happy to work with you and not push, I promise.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Well, so Gwyneth has happily offered, like she said, to chat with anyone who wants to learn more or potentially, go further than that and actually start laying some plans. Is email the best way to contact you, Gwyneth, or is phone? And then I can put put that information in the chat for everyone so that way they can have that. What's the best way to contact you, though?
Either email, phone, or text. Sometimes email can end up in spam, so I don't mind a
Right.
phone call or a text either. Whatever works for you. My phone number is 818-562-0275, and my email is Doyle Gwynneth, so DOYLE GWYNNETH @gmail.com.
Wonderful. And
And
I
I'm
will
obviously in the member directory as well. It's all there.
Yeah, absolutely. I will put that contact information in the comments as well. So it can be, anyone who's watching can scroll down and find that. And yes, like she said, she'll be in the HCC directory as well. Gwyneth, it was so wonderful talking to you and learning more about solar. It's a really fantastic thing that you're, helping people do. So I'm so glad to chat with you. And I hope, that some people reach out to find out more and hopefully, get started on their own solar journey.
Thank you so much, Ashlyn and HCC, for providing this opportunity for me about my business. This was wonderful.
Absolutely. It was such a pleasure chatting with you. And thank you to everyone who joined in while we were streaming. And thank you to everyone who watched this afterwards. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.